Roxanne Gant adores her grandson.
He's a little sweetheart.
So when she learned Bradley was taken from his parents and put in foster care, she came forward immediately.
Right away, that day, I said, I want Bradley.
But Roxanne says she was met with strong resistance.
They've got the ball in their court. They can do what they want. And they did.
Roxanne is talking about the private agency the state contracts to handle foster care and adoption cases. By law, extended family members must be given first consideration when placing a child taken from their parents. Roxanne says that didn't happen, so she got a lawyer and has spent $15,000 fighting for Bradley. The private agency finally approved her to adopt another child, but Roxanne didn't want just any child.
I just want Bradley.
She went to the state office of the Children's Ombudsman. It investigated her complaints and issued this report. It says both the private agency and the Department of Human Services violated a half-dozen policies.
It was so blatant that they didn't even try to hide it.
The OCO report says the agency referred Bradley to a couple for adoption months before a court terminated his parents' rights and had fully intended to implement that plan despite policy requiring first consideration be given to relatives.
They'd already made up their mind. The Ombudsman's office told me that promises had been made.
Attorney Elizabeth Warner represents families in these kinds of disputes. She says this is exactly why private adoption agencies should have no part of the foster care system.
When the state takes a child from a parent and places the child in foster care, private agencies are supposed to make every effort to reunify the child with their parents. They are not supposed to adopt them out.
Warner says what the agency did in Bradley's case may be more than a policy violation.
It's a crime.
She says it is illegal in Michigan to tell a couple they have been chosen to adopt a foster child and to place the child with them before the child's parents' rights have been terminated.
It's a misdemeanor. People can be prosecuted for it, and people who do that ought to lose their job.
The private agency DA Blodgett St. John's in Grand Rapids declined to do an interview, but in an email said that their priority is to reunify foster kids with their parents, and they strongly advocate for relative placements for children when safety can be assured.
But the Ombudsman report tells another story. DA Blodgett admitted fault to every violation, including not placing Bradley with his grandma. So how was the agency punished? It wasn't. The Ombudsman does not have that kind of authority.
They're getting away with it.
The Department of Human Services, or DHS, oversees the private agencies it contracts with. DHS also would not talk to Action News. So why did the agency deny Roxanne her grandson?
The private agencies simply have an affiliation, a familiarity with their foster families, and they want to help those people get a child.
Warner claims private agencies have an allegiance first to their clients, the couples looking to adopt.
They may say they're doing this for the children, but in reality, you can tell when a case is being managed by a private agency.
Warner and other experts told 7 Action News they have seen widespread problems with private adoption and foster care agencies. They say they don't follow policy, stonewall families, and manipulate cases to get the outcomes they want.
It's some pretty blatant tactics to try and shut the doors to relatives who want to adopt.
DHS officials point out that for each year from 2006 through 2009, a little less than half of foster care children were adopted by extended family members. Despite those numbers, experts say too often relatives are losing loved ones to the system.
That's eventually going to mess up Bradley. You know why? He's going to wonder why my family didn't want me.
Private agencies don't have final say on foster care adoptions. They make a recommendation to DHS, which then reviews it and sends a decision to a judge. But experts say judges rarely go against DHS, and children can be cut off from family forever. That's exactly what has happened to Bradley. Remember that Ombudsman report? Bradley has a half-sister, Kelsey, he also may never see again. State child welfare policy says that private agencies are supposed to maintain sibling bonds, but the report says DA Blodgett also violated this policy when it denied Bradley visits with Kelsey and even told the Ombudsman the children do not know each other.
Every time we get her, she asks about Bradley.
But Roxanne's legal appeals are done. Bradley is gone. to the very couple the agency originally had referred him to for adoption. Roxanne was left to break the news to Kelsey.
She cried, and I cried with her. I said, you know, someday, hopefully, they'll tell him that he's adopted and he'll come back looking for us.
For months, 7 Action News tried to get DHS Director Maura Corrigan to do an interview. Finally, today, she issued a written statement saying laws protecting family privacy prohibit DHS from discussing specific cases, but the department is committed to placing children in homes that best meet their needs, and that relatives are always our first choice. Corrigan also says the final decision is made by the courts, but that DHS's responsibility is to ensure the health and safety of children. I'm Heather Catallo, 7 Action News.
Yeah, difficult.